Dega and Daytona today. We're going to talk a little bit about the gears, the springs, and basically show you a few little tricks that can help you get faster. So we'll go ahead and load in here. Bear, what's going on, bud?
What's going on there, Mr. Morris? Welcome everybody to Shop Talk. Today we are discussing the restrictor plate tracks in the Cup Series, and we're going to kind of go through what we got for you here today, and we're just going to wait around here for a little bit, kind of give the stream time to build up a few people to come on. We're going to sit around and talk a little bit about plate tracks and the things we can do to make them go faster, and why we are the way we are, and figure, like I said, I told everyone whoever came on here tonight, they would get to take a sneak peek at my actual Talladega car. It's going to be my real Talladega car, so I'm excited that I get to give back to the community and everybody gets to get a piece of that, and hopefully it'll improve the racing out there for the folks that get their hands on this car. So
that's right. So
because
if you're watching live, you're watching Bear's link that we put out, and you'll see his setup. If you're not watching live and you're watching this on Impact TV where it was recorded, you're going to want to go to Bear's channel. The link will be in the description, and you'll be able to get a glimpse of his setup. You definitely don't want to miss that. So we'll load in here.
Yep, we're headed in right now. I'm going into Talladega Superspeedway.
Right on. So I've got my setup loaded up. Let me just talk to you a little bit about what I've got going on here. So we'll start with the gears, and we'll get your opinion on them. So I've got the gears. The rear end's set at a 2.8. The fourth is at a 1.05. The third is at a 1.15. Second's at a 1.4. And the first gear is at a 2.0. Now, I built this setup about, probably at least 3 months ago. And I'm not entirely sure what it hits for lap times by itself. So let's go out and give it a shot and see what we got. We don't want to skip past practice here. Jimmy Johnson Halide paint scheme. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm a Jimmy Johnson fan. On the side.
For everyone that's actually, if you're a little confused right now, Morris is showing his Talladega setup on the Impact TV broadcast, and I'm going to show you guys mine here. And as a matter of fact, we're at the setup screen right now as we speak, so I'm just kind of sitting here waiting to see what kind of lap time that Morris turns with his single lap time. And then I'm going to turn out here, and I'm going to turn a single lap time myself in the car that I'm about to give everyone. So, but that's where we are right now. We're also going to get into the finer details of what's going to happen with our cars and why they do what they do, and explain to people why they are the way they are as well, too. So,
the goal here is to get you guys to a point where you can get on the game and you can feel comfortable building your setup without having to go to YouTube and looking for a setup off, my channel, HD Motorsports channel, and there's many more. And
that's right.
Even if you do, maybe you do grab one of our setups and it doesn't quite feel right for you, this will give you an idea of how to tune it, tweak it, and get it to your liking, and get speed out of it all at the same time.
Exactly.
So now, Barry, you're the Superspeedway expert as far as I know. Now,
right.
They've never been my strong point. I've always struggled here.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest thing is? Is it the gears? Is it the handling that comes out of the chassis?
I mean, honestly, it's a little bit of both, because if you can't hold the car in the corner, then how are you going to be able to, no matter how big of a run you got, if you can't make the corner, it's not going to turn. If it don't turn, it's going to go straight. So you got to have a combination of both, honestly. You got to, that sweet spot for a lot of people is hard to find, because if we see it a lot of times on here, especially at plate tracks where guys are wobbling in the corner and they're wobbling back and forth, or the front end's darty, or just the car just looks unhappy. It looks unstable. And today we're fixing to show you now, as I'm fixing to click on my setup here and show everyone my setup, what it is that we've got in our cars that you don't have, that's going to make the car that you have more stable. It's going to make it more reliable. It's going to make you feel more comfortable as a driver to make moves on the racetrack that you just necessarily may not have been able to do. You'll be able to make quick reactions with your car to where it doesn't get out of shape or it doesn't get loose on its own. And I think that a lot of people are going to benefit from it. So here we go.
All right.
This is my actual race setup right here. All right, here's my setup right here. This is what mine looks like. I have all the bumps and rebounds all the way to the bottom. They're bottomed out, all threes all the way around. The car is tightly knitted to the ground as possible. It means it's as tight and there is as much force in this car as to be. I don't want it to move. I don't want it to wiggle. I don't want it to wobble. All right, that's the first thing with shocks on this car is you want it to be to the ground. Nothing short of hitting the splitter. You want it to be right on top of the surface. So number one, it can't get air underneath it, and it can't come off the ground, and the front end is not jacked up in there, and it's not going back and forth. So now moving on, another thing, a big thing, a lot of people don't understand this. Front weight distribution. Okay, with front weight distribution, the more weight you move to the front of the vehicle, the more front downforce you have, the more front security you have, so the less likely it is that the car is going to wobble, okay? So you see a lot of guys, you know, Morris, you've seen it, where they're going down the back straightaway and the car's kind of fishing back and forth, like the front end's not even in the racetrack.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what you see. Yeah, and you see it all the time. And you also see it in the corners where guys' cars are unstable, they're not steady, and they don't stay in the same line. They tend to drift from lane to lane, and it causes a lot of accidents on this game in particular, where one guy thinks he's going to be one place, and he goes in the corner and it won't stay. But and I've also got the wedge turned all the way down. Why? Because the wedge and weight ratio, they kind of work hand in hand. Because if I had the weight dialed back, the car would be looser on entry. But because I had the front weight maxed all the way out, I'm able to run the wedge all the way down to counterbalance that, which gives the car good balance. Because they're both stretched out to the max on both ends of the spectrum, so that the car can rotate and have maximum downforce. We have a little bit softer spring. We'll move to springs now. You always leave the ride heights at 4. Especially at a big track like this place. Now there's some other options, and we will get into that because I got a little surprise for y'all here in a little bit. But when it comes to Daytona, but at a place like this, you want the car to be on the ground. You want it to be as close to the ground as possible. Hence why, as we move forward here to the spring settings, our spring settings.
We're going to cut you off for just a second there. Remember, folks, if you're watching this on Impact TV, it's Friday night. You're seeing right now my car as it goes around. We hit a 48.971. You're not seeing Bear's setup. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at my setup real quick. Now, my ride heights are not on the ground. My ride heights, front ride height is at 6, and the rear ride height's at 4.2. So I'm going to let Bear go ahead and keep talking, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop mine down to 4, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to run another lap and see how much faster it gets.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, there's one benefit to having the front end jacked up and not being on the ground. It's going to make it a great car that pulls up. It's going to pull up better on people. Like, it's going to draft better. Like, it's going to suck up on people better. But when you pull out to pass someone, it's going to be like a big parachute. It's going to go boom, and it's going to fall backwards. Unless you got a massive train of cars behind you. That's about the only positive thing that's going to come out of that is the fact that you're going to get a tremendous run, but you're going to be good enough to compensate for the front end being that high and creating that big parachute in the front end. So, anyways, again, we'll move on from the weight and the ride heights. We'll move into springs. Now, springs, I've got a softer spring combination than most people do. A lot of people think maxed out springs equals maxed out speed. I mean, yes, that's true in a sense. A lot of reasons, a lot of people, they run maxed out springs, at certain racetracks to get the most speed out of their cars. But here, it's not really that big of an issue because you're keeping the car. The whole thing is to keep the car on the ground. That's what you want to do. You want to keep it on the ground, and you want to keep it stable as well. And sometimes that's hard to do. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's hard to find that maximum downforce without the car either A, plowing, B, pushing, or C, just being tight overall. But this particular combination I'm showing you now, it's probably one of the better combinations of this game as far as handling and drivability. You can do anything with this car here. Again, everyone knows, anybody who's played this game in the last 2 years, when
you kind of play tracks. Tire wear is not a non-factor, so you put maximum tire pressure out there as high as it'll go, and you can run it for as long as you want to without any adverse effects on the tire wear. Now, maybe if you run a long time 4 race here at Talladega, which you rarely do, the majority of plate races are ran in public lobbies, and it's usually anywhere from 5 to 13 laps long on average. So with the way we got this car set up, it's made for short runs, and it's also made for medium runs. As always, the cambers, they're always maxed out. We've got a relatively small front sway bar in there to reduce drag. Thicker sway bars may be better for the long run, but at a place that requires nothing but speed, a smaller one is better. We've got both track bars maxed all the way out. It has no adverse effect, as you can tell, because I've got the car completely bolted to the ground with the springs and the shocks and rebounds. So I've got the ability to raise the track bars all the way up off the ground, because that's what keeps the car from dragging. So that again has another adverse effect on the car. I have the brake bias dialed back out of the front end of the car because I've already got maximum downforce. I don't need any more brake in the front. I dial a little bit back to the rear. I run more of a 60-40 brake pressure system in this car to keep the balance of the car overall toward the center of the vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Even though I've got all my front weight shifted to the front, I've got everything else kind of pulled back to the rear of the car as well, so it creates a big level plank overall. Like if you were to look at this thing like a balancing machine, you would see that the car is equally balanced all the way across the board. Grill tapes at 55, wheel lock at 9 degrees. Depending on whether you're a controller guy or you're an offset guy, you can adjust this accordingly. So I've had people tell me that this car pulls to the right on them. Some people say it pulls to the left on them. You may have to adjust that accordingly. If the car pulls to the right, then you might want to leave the offset alone. You might have to adjust the left front spring. If the car pulls to the left, you can always go up on the offset. You can also increase or decrease the wheel lock. The smaller the wheel lock, the smaller the turn radius, the faster the car is going to be. The less you have to move that wheel. If all you got to do is just go in there and just barely turn the wheel in the center of the corner, you're going to have more speed, less drag. The key here is no drag. That's what you don't want to have, is drag. But anyways, what did that change do over there, Morris? How did that look?
Well, to be honest with you, we ran pretty much the same lap, but what I wonder is if it's not because of how different my setup is from yours as a whole. So what I just did is I changed the wedge and the front weight. We heard you talking about the multiple end of the spectrum and getting the max downforce out of it while still getting it to rotate. We raised the track bars up too. So we're going to go out and we're going to try it again. And I think a lot of it's probably gears. I'm interested to get to the gears. So go ahead and keep going. I'm going to keep tinkering with it so the guys watching have something to look at and they can see the changes and how they're affecting the car. What I can tell you is that the car felt a lot more stable on the bottom with it being on the ground without the nose up in the sky, which is something that comes over from the Utechnics games, really, I think. I don't remember seeing it so much in NASCAR 09, but when the Utechnics games came out, NASCAR 11
it was a big deal.
NASCAR 15,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a really big deal to stick that nose up in the air and to let the rear end drag a little bit. And I think that's carried over, and people are starting to see, and they need to see, that it's really not the way to go here.
Right. We're starting to see a few folks come over now. Welcome, you guys, welcome as we're jumping in. I just loaded up my Talladega setup. This is actually my car. This is what I run all the time. This is what I run every day. Every time I load in here, every time I'm racing online, this is the Talladega car I use. This is the only car I use. I don't have anything else. I mean, as you can see, I'll show you. There's the qualifying setup. That's a default qualifying setup. I don't have but one setup in here. So, but anyways, so Moore's got a 48.9 with the way his car's set up. Let's just see what mine runs by itself. We'll come on off pit road here. Like I said, I use a Logitech G29 wheel, so people's cars may or may not, the handling of my car for you may be a little different by the way you either drive it or the way you don't drive it. So there's, a lot there to decipher as far as offset and stuff. And again, let me reiterate that, higher up on the wheel lock means, more rapid steering, more aggressive steering. The lower the wheel lock, the tighter it's going to be, the more wheel you can put into it. And for guys with controllers, that wheel lock from a 10 to 12 range overall is about where you want to be.
Agreed.
You know, that's about where you want to be on a controller. And if you can keep the offset as close to 0 as possible, that's great, because you want the car going in a straight line. You know, you want it to be going in a straight line. You don't want to be dog tracking or have the car over rotating at the end of the corner, because these are long, wide corners as it is. So, I mean, there's not really any, you know, adverse, you know, anything to gain there by having the offset up, other than, you know, maybe correcting the steering issue with the car, maybe pulling in one direction or the other. But we're starting up a warm-up lap here, man. Halfway down the back stretch here. I'm going to start my lap up here. You know, you usually get 2 laps of qualifying for the qualifying session, so.
Yeah, see, I used my qualifying session. I forgot it was a knockout round at Talladega. So what we're doing is we're loading in and we're letting the field get by, and we're running little hot laps here by ourselves. Now, again, with these changes, I can feel the car more glued to the ground, just making a downforce change. We just hit a 49.1 here. The second lap to see what that runs.
It'll be nice and smooth around the transition of this thing, all the way around through here. Let it come up a little bit, let it unwind. Just follow that line right there down that back straightaway. That's the preferred line around Talladega. And of course, you know, when you're racing, you can't always run the preferred line, so everybody understands that. And my car is not a single car speed car. My car is not a bullet by itself. But you put it in a group of cars and this thing will flat out fly. I promise you. It's built to race. It's built to run. It's made to race against people. It's made to be behind and in front of people. This car can lead and it can push. It just all depends on what you want. So my car by itself ran a 48.71 by itself, solo. I have ran faster. I could probably get faster if I ran a few more laps, but just a standard 2-lap qualifying run at a 48.70. I know that may not blow a lot of people's minds, but you know, if you get out there and run 2 laps in your own car, you'd understand, you'd see what we're talking about. But that is my car. That is what I run right there every day. There's nothing different about it. Anything to add, Morris?
As far as Talladega goes, I can't add too much because I'm not the greatest here, of course, with the plate tracks. Now, the only thing that I wonder is if we can get in the gears a little bit here. Now, I'm still hitting 9s with all these changes. I think a lot of it has got to be in the gears. I don't think my car has the power to go faster. So, let's go ahead and exit out of here. Let's talk about the gears for just a minute. Go over the gear settings. Now, I'm running a 286 rear end.
You're running a 286 with a what now?
With a 105.
He's running a 286 with a 105. Okay, for people that don't understand gears, all right, you don't understand what final drive is. Okay, that rear end ratio at the bottom, that is your final drive ratio. That is what the car, that's what final drive you're setting it at. So 294 times the 4th gear will be 294. So Morris is actually running, if you do a little math with us, he's running a 2.86 times a 1.05. He's actually running a 300 rear end overall. The overall drive of that car is a 300, where mine is a 294. So my car has got a little bit more torque in it, which means it has a little bit more top end, and it'll get up to speed just a little bit better than his will. Just a little bit. Which
is
in 2
where
laps,
we're losing that 2/10.
Right. And so in 2 laps, that's a big difference. You know?
Absolutely. So now if I've got a 286,
yeah,
and I want to get that better rear end overall, what is the best way to go about that? If I'm watching this video and I'm wondering, all right, I hear what he's saying, but I don't quite get it.
Okay.
What is the?
All right, if you want to get more torque out of it, say he's got a 286 with a 105, right? That's what he's got. And you got a 300 ratio. Well, I mean, I was running a 294 with a 100, which is a 294. So to get a 294 with a 100, I mean, you could go a 291 with a 105. Actually, no, you would actually go to a 280 with a 105. Now, 280 is as low as you can go with a ratio. It's going to be all torque. You got to figure out what kind of car do you want to have. Because there's a lot of people, I don't know if you notice this or not when you're in plate tracks, you get behind one car and it feels like a dump truck's in front of you, and you get behind one car, you can just push the crap out of them any way they go. You know, that's the difference in gear selections for people. Some people, they run a real low gear, which makes them heavier out front because it takes the car longer to build momentum up versus someone with a higher ratio like yours, where it builds up and it stays up there, and it makes the car easier to handle, easier to push, in front of you.
So we've changed our rear end to a 294. We've changed our fourth to a 1.0. Before we head out here, we know that first, second, and third gear are very, very important.
Right.
Getting through the gears, you're going to build your speed up. That's how you're going to get to your max speed faster and more efficiently. So how does someone go about their third, second, and first gear? We figured out the math for our rear end and our fourth gear, but how do we expand on that? If I'm looking at my third gear right now, it's a 1.15. I mean, I'm not a big gear guy, so what I would do is I would go out here and I would just see how it feels through the transition. Now, I know it feels pretty good already, but to get it to feel a little bit better, maybe I take my first gear and knock it down to a 190. Maybe I take my second gear and knock it down to a 135 and leave my third alone. Now, how do those overall changes affect the race car before I get out there?
Well, I mean, well, plate tracks in particular, takeoff speed is everything. Getting up to speed for one thing. So you want to have a complement. You want first, second, third gear to complement the car overall. So when it starts to get up to speed, each gear helps it climb closer and closer to its top speed. So, like, say for instance, like when you start in a public lobby, it's going to start you off in second gear per se, right? At about, I don't know, what's it? No, it's like 75 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Right, okay. So it starts you out there at about 75 miles per hour, and then you come through the gearbox, you know what I'm saying? And you shift in a second, boom. And you want to listen to the pitch of the motor. If that thing dies on you when you shift, you've got those gears too far apart. You know what I'm saying? You want to hear that thing when it catches. You want it to catch at a certain range. For me,
you want to keep humming.
Right, you want to keep climbing. You want that thing to keep digging, so you can.
You don't want to see the RPMs dive from 8,500 down to 4,000, 5,000. You want those things to stick right around 6,500.
Like I'm going to do something here. Get turned around here. I got a clobbered on coming out of the pit and stuff. I'll show you a little bit on something called RPM matching. So I'm setting something up like a plate gear or something like that. And you coming out of here going green. And you hit the red. As soon as you touch that red, you shift. And I shift to second gear, and it's at $6,000 when I shift. And I shift to third gear, boom, and it goes to 7,200 RPMs. You want to keep that separation in those gears. You want to keep a good separation. Generally, most of the time, there's usually a little bit of a common denominator with each racetrack. If you look at the first and second gear on mine with the 295 to a 185, it's usually like 1.10 difference. Then there's like 0.4 difference. Then there's 0.40 difference, and it just keeps going like that. There's a pattern there, and if you find that pattern that you like and the way you like your vehicle to shift, you'll find those sequential shift points for your gears. Because if you increase one of these numbers, it shortens the gear up. So like first gear, if I went up this way, it shortens the gear up. It's going to redline faster. If I go down on the gear, it's going to make it last longer. That's another reason why folks are able to run 3-speed transmissions at short tracks. A lot of people don't understand that you can elongate this gear a long time. Shit, you can go all the way up to freaking as high, up to a 350 in the third gear. It can go as high as you want it to go. But that's up to you. I like to keep my gears relatively short at plates, because I want to get to fourth gear as fast as I can get there. First, second, third, boom, I'm in fourth. So by the time I come off turn 2, I'm about halfway to where I want to be at top speed. You want to be hitting about 200 or so, 202 at the end of the back straightaway if you're starting an actual race. That's going to help. It's going to benefit you. But again, for the folks that are just joining that and paying attention to us, this is my actual Talladega setup. Feel free to copy it, go back, look at it later, help yourselves to it. It's my gift to you guys. I also got another surprise to you. As we're wrapping up Talladega here, I hope you found this little bit of information useful and helpful. These things are a rolling geometry project, guys. Just remember, the lower the bump and rebounds, the tighter the car is going to be, the more on the ground the car is going to be. The further up you go, the looser the car is going to be, the looser the body's going to feel, the more bouncer it's going to be over bumps and stuff like that. Stiffer springs equal speed, but softer springs in the rear at super speedways equal speed. You want low, softer springs. Soft springs are a good thing in super speedways because the car's already on the ground. Max tire pressures, that's a common thing. Everybody knows that. If you run the opposite direction, you're going to be missing a little bit of speed. Everybody knows that. Maximum PSI. There's no adverse effect on tire wear here, so why would you not pump them all the way up? Small, skinny front sway bar. It's the way you want it to look. It's the way you want it to run. That's the way you'd like to see it right there. Maximum track bars create balance. You've already got all the weight shifting to the front of the car, so now you got to free the rear of the car up to counteract the balance from the front end. And that's pretty much Talladega.
I love it. All right, so we went through the gears. My gears right now, you saw them. Well, you just saw when I took off. So first of all, we did run about 1/10 faster just by changing the gears, just by changing really the rear end. We didn't change the rest of it too much. Now what you saw was when I shifted to third, excuse me, when I shifted to second, it was a longer gear. It took a long time there.
Yeah.
I'm going to bump that back up to 1.4.
Yeah.
Instead of 1.35 because it took way too long for us to get through. And that's, like Bear said, that's pretty much Talladega. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to load out of here.
What's up, Red? Appreciate you hanging with us,
load
buddy.
Right on out of here.
We're going to Daytona, Red. We just got through. We just wrapped up with Talladega here. I had a little surprise for the folks that were watching. They're going to watch here. We're going to have both the Super Speedway setups on here tonight. I'm giving out both of them. So, and we're actually giving out the one that Morris has already posted up on the Impact TV screen for Daytona. So,
all right, so let's go ahead. Back to the main screen here. We'll load into Daytona. And let's talk real quick about the little differences, mainly in the handling.
right. Let's talk about Daytona. Let's talk about adverse handling. All right,
I think the main thing has to be how much more bumpier the track is and how much, yeah, I guess
DK?
it's a good way to put it. It's a good way to describe Daytona other than bumpy.
Oh, narrow. The turn radius.
Perfect.
All right, the turn radius here for Daytona, okay? All right. So, Talladega, when you go down into turn one, there's a big old comforting wide racetrack down there. You know, everybody, oh, it's turn one Talladega, you know, real happy. Well, down here, it's very narrow. You're lucky to get 3 wide going to turn one at Daytona. There's not a lot of room for error, and it is just as rough as anything on this game. It's smooth to its extent, but when you get close to that yellow line, that apron transition at Daytona is a lot more unforgiving than it is at Talladega. You can touch the apron at Talladega and you can get away with it, but here, it's not so good. You can see these cars, man, if you got a good enough setup like we got right here, man, this thing runs and flies. But if you got one that's upset and the car is doing like this, darting back and forth, and the front end's not happy. You know, if it's just not happy, I mean, if it's just cars going back and forth, it's hard to make a corner entry with that car. Can't no one get, how can you get in the corner with the car dancing all over the place in the front end? You need this car to be on the ground. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You know, you want the car to be on the ground. You want it to be tight, sealed off. You want it to be comfortable. You want it to be calm. And as you can see, a comfortable, calm car equals a lot of speed. The car's going to get a lot of speed. It's going to fly.
So we've loaded in the Daytona setup. First thing you're going to notice, Bear talked about his setup at Talladega and how he had that thing sucked right down to the ground. He had the shocks all the way down at 3. We've got them pretty close. We've got them all the way at 4. Now, Bear might have something different going on, but I've got them at 4 instead of 3 here because of how bumpy the track is.
I'm showing them the Impact TV one, bud. That's the one that we're going to thank courtesy of Mr. Dega Racing. We sure appreciate it. I'm showing them this one in this tutorial video. We thank you, buddy. These gears are a little bit different than what we've ever ran here. I've ever ran here, actually, and the way the setup of the car handles.
Very new.
Yeah, oh yeah, very new age stuff right here. It's just, you know, courtesy of Mr. Dega.
For sure. But so to go on again with how the car's stuck to the ground, we've got the shock settings at 4. I'm going to go ahead and leave them there because I found when I go below 4, I'm bottoming out a lot. Now,
Right.
the ride heights, we talked to Talladega about how we don't stick our front ride height up in the air no more. I've got that here. Is that a bad idea here as well?
You know, here, aerodynamics mean everything, don't get me wrong. You know? Aerodynamics mean everything, but here, you can get away with a little bit taller front ride height. You can get away with that. Because the turn radius is so sharp and the angle of the banking is so different. Even though Talladega's got a steeper banking overall, the turn radius makes the car want to bottom out more, and the car compresses more. You get more G's going through this corner because of the narrowness of the corners. To me,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? The car's compressed different here
Absolutely
compared
agree.
to Talladega. You know what I'm
You
saying?
turn the wheel a lot sharper. It's not as smooth.
Right, exactly. You're putting a lot more wheel into it. And if you got the car already sitting on the ground and you're cutting the wheel, that's just going to make the car go down even lower. You know, because if you're going in a straight line, if you're really like legitimately going in a straight line into the corner and you turn the wheel, what does that do? It drops the front end because the wheels are at a different angle. They're going to compress. The front end's going to compress.
So, we're going to go ahead. This setup again, it's the World Challenge setup that we put up on YouTube. I know a lot of people used it. We got about 600 views on it in the week it was up. So thank you guys for checking it out. Hopefully it helped you out. It was very tough to get into the top 10, let alone the top 5 of Daytona. You had a lot of competition. So I want to move to the springs real quick, since I'm looking at the same setup on both sides. But the springs here are way different than springs that we just looked at Talladega, or really springs that I've seen anywhere. Let's try to explain why the left front spring, I know somebody's got to be looking at that right now going, why is that at 500? Why are all of them, you know, around the 280, 300 to 500 range? Then the right front is just stuck up in the 1000 range like that. Why is it so different? So Bear, if you can explain to us the springs a little bit.
Okay.
And why?
All right. So, basically, I'm going to back out of here because I'm sitting here piddling with this thing a little bit and running in the car and trying to show everybody the line that we use with this car. Okay, so.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've already got the way the car's set up. All right. We don't have all the weight on the nose on this car. Okay? If that makes any sense to anybody. If you paid attention to our Talladega setup earlier tonight, that we all already showed, you can go back and rewatch it. My car is still on there. It ain't going nowhere. And I'm going to be brief here because we're getting pinched on time. But to be quick here, when you maximize the front weight, you have to run stiffer springs in the front end, because when you roll all that weight forward, you will bottom the front end out and hit the splitter and go straight to the fence. Okay? Where here, they have the front weight dialed back, showing you another way to build a car. They have the front weight dialed back more toward the rear of the car and have the front spring softer so the car's front end is on the ground, and basically doing it with springs instead of weight distribution. Okay?
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Makes perfect sense
All
to
right,
me. Yes,
so
sir.
so now, even though we've only got a 500-pound spring in the left front and 1,000 in the right front, I'll explain the handling characteristics in a second. But you see the front ride height's at 6. The reason that the front ride height is sitting like that, because if it wasn't, the front end would drag the ground, you'd be sparking all over the place, you look like the 4th of July. So, in order for the car to work this way and adversely run and perform this way, you have to change other things on the race car to complement it. And if you make the right adjustment, it will complement it and the car will go faster. If you make the wrong adjustment, it'll scrub, scrape, or it will digress and it'll go backwards. And you'll see that in adjustments that you make in other cars. The rear of the car, the rear springs, people are going, well, why do you have the left rear spring over the right rear spring? Well, what that does is it keeps the car from snapping on exit, okay? What that does is when I look at the springs on this car, what this car tells me is that he is 3 on entry and loose off, okay? Stiffer the left front spring, that helps the car be tighter on entry, and the lower the right rear spring the tighter it's going to be on exit. So that tells me this car, the overall feeling of this car was loose overall. And what the person that made this setup did is they lowered the springs down and left the left one over the right one to create a stability feel for the car so it would drive better. Okay.
Now, for the people that don't understand, a 1,000 pound per inch spring is a stiff or a soft spring?
It depends on what track you're at. At Superspeedways, that's a relatively soft spring in the front end.
Relatively soft, yes. Okay. So, we'll let Bear continue on that. And you look at the rest of the setup, and you'll notice the track bars, too, is the big one. Because we are running out of time, we want to touch on that real quick. Now, the track bars at Talladega, we had them maxed at 15. Here, we don't. They're down at 11.2 and 11.0. Yep. Why is that way? Because, again, you go and you look at the ride heights, you look at the shock settings. This car is not sucked right down to the track because of the way it needs to carry itself over the bumps. So, therefore, you can't raise it much higher with the track bars. You could go higher than this, and there's many tweaks. This isn't a perfect setup. There's many tweaks you could make to this thing to go faster. There's plenty of people out there who are faster than me, especially at the plate tracks. But you don't need it raised up at 15 to get the car off the ground because the car's not sucked right to the ground with the shocks and the weight.
Exactly. So basically, what we're doing here with this car, with the way it's set up and the way things are done, it's all one big geometry project, guys. So, just remember that everything adversely affects something else on the car. So you can't adjust one thing
attached
without the other. It's all together. It's all one big thing. So, okay.
That's right.
Basically, when you come to a track like Daytona, Talladega and Daytona, yeah, they're super speedways, yeah, they're both plate tracks, but the thing is, Daytona has a sharper turn radius overall. So what happens when you go in the corner and you're running 215 miles per hour and you dive off in turn one here? Everybody's cars, they either wobble or they bounce or they got body roll, okay? So what you do is you lower the track bars down a little bit more, well, a significant amount more than you would at Talladega, because it's a sharper turn radius. It's not as wide. It's not as forgiving. So you lower them down to make the car more stable to where it will run the low line all the way through the center of the corner. You want the car to go, and you want to find your spot. Like you tell yourself, all right, I want to be on the white line all the way around turn 1 and 2. Well, if the car's raised up on its track bars, the rear end's going to want to twitch back and forth and rock on the track bars, and it's just going to create a wobble effect, and you're just going to be wobbling in the middle of the corner, and then you can't hold a stable line. Then you can't make any moves around anybody. Then nobody's going to want to race with you, and they're just going to kick you out of their lobby. You're going to create a bunch of wrecks, even though you didn't mean to. It's just the way you have your car set up. Maxed out track bars aren't always the best way to go. Sometimes you bring them back a little bit, get stability in the car. Because I say a stable car is a fast car. If you can move around that car and do things that other people can't do with it, then you've got a way better car than most people do. Because there's a lot of people that, before they even get to turn 2 at Daytona and Talladega, they crash because their car's wobbling all over the place. So what we're doing here today is we're trying to educate people a little bit and show them what it looks like to have a stable race car and a car that'll go in a straight line and won't wobble back and forth on the racetrack. And I'm going to show you that a little bit.
While you're listening to Bear, he's going to show you on his broadcast as well. And again, we're doing a simulcast here. We got two things going on at once. We're broadcasting live to Bear while we're recording the episode. So now, we're showing you here at Daytona. I'm in traffic right now. Just how smooth the car is, how well I can hold the line. I can take it high, I can take it low. You do whatever I need to do with it. We don't need to run single line or single runs here, single car runs. We did that at Talladega. So now we're showing you how this setup is. It's fast. It's also stable.
Right. Me, I'm actually doing a little bit of single car run here. I'm just showing line placement and showing folks of how easy this car is to drive and how smooth it is actually. I'm just going to show you a little bit. I'm trying to get up to speed here, and as I say that, I scrub the wall, make myself look a dummy. That's funny. But we're going to get up to speed here. We'll get the car rolling here. I'll show you. You can put this car anywhere you want to on any part of the racetrack. You can run right against the fence. You can run right in the middle of the racetrack. You can run anywhere you want with this setup. It's not going to bobble. It's not going to wobble. You know, a lot of people are used to going to the corner and the car is jerking and dancing all over the place. This car right here, man, you just put a little bit of wheel into it and hold on. That's all you got to do. Nothing to it. Real easy. Simple race car to drive. I'll show you again here as we go into turn 3. I'm just going to be right against the wall. Remember that LG line? You know, they want a lot of poles with, hashtag. But, just right up against the fence. I mean, just real smooth, man. The car's not jerking, it's not bouncing, it's not doing anything I don't want it to do. We're starting a qualifying lap here. I just moved down to the bottom. Real good, smooth transition down to the bottom. Going right down on the bottom of the racetrack into turn one, just real smooth. Car do whatever you want it to do. Gonna go any which way you want to go. Run right on the yellow line, all the way around turns 1 and 2. We're running down the back stretch, right against the yellow line. Car's not pulling one direction or the other. It's kind of staying still, staying put. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's still doing what it wants to do. I mean, you might have to adjust the steering settings just a little bit. You know, the wheel lock and the offset just for you. You know, for your liking. But as you can see, right there, I mean, other than my own errors, the car is a good car. It drives great. It performs great. It's fun to drive in traffic. And it's got good speed. Just run a 45-50 right there. You know, just didn't hit my best lap, but I mean, this car here probably run 45-4s, 45-5s, you know, by itself in a 2-lap qualifying session. I would say so myself. But anyways,
I think so, for sure.
I mean, I hope you guys, you know, take a look at this. Y'all smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Next week, next Monday, actually, we'll probably go.
So we're going to have to change the days because we've got some league racing coming back again.
Yeah.
But next week, we're going to tackle road courses. And I'm hoping we're going to have a special guest.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get somebody else to jump in here and talk to you guys about road courses as well.
Right.
Because
that's
not Bear's Alley, but I'll be glad to hang out.
We're going to do, just like I'm hanging out today, but we're going to touch everything, folks. The idea is to get you guys more comfortable with the setups. We love competition. You got Bear here. He's a pro league driver. He's out here giving you his setups. He wants competition. He doesn't want it to be easy for him. No. I don't want it to be easy for me.
No.
So we're going to tackle everything. We're going to try to tackle road courses. We're going to tackle dirt. We've got an idea of everything. Right. We're not perfect everywhere, but we know enough about a little to make us dangerous.
That's right. That's right. Shout out to everybody that come out tonight, and I hope you guys like this, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found this video informational. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll get to you as quick as I can. Obviously, got a lot on my plate here lately. We got a lot going on. Shout out to my team, LeavineFamily Racing, you know, for getting ready to start the Pro League season off on May the 24th in Charlotte. Pretty pumped up about that. Got a lot to get ready to go on, man. I'm pumped. You know, Venom Racing League starts April the 1st, Monday night, 7:45 Eastern, at Auto Club live on Impact TV. You guys check that out. Going to be about 18 drivers in Venom League this year. A lot of names you recognize, a lot of top 50 guys. So, and a lot of Pro League drivers too. So, yep.
And
well, all right,
we
guys.
got Impact renamed back to the original name, G-Force Racing, coming back this Thursday at Daytona. So,
yeah. Not a problem, man. How about next time? Same bat time, same bat channel. God bless everybody.